fleet positions. Some on Twitter were making jokes about the denials that were coming in most places. You can see this Twitter handle here, East of Brussels. Now, this is for the European Neighbourhood Policy, which is in favour of Ukraine joining the European Union. So everything you have on their Twitter feed, Cyril, is extremely cynical about Russia and pro-Ukraine coming into the European fold. Totally not Russian troops, they say in inverted commas, with totally not professionally looking military equipment. So they're being about as ironic as you can be in a tweet there. Now, the next series of pictures, we have it on YouTube. It shows a number of helicopters that were coming across. Let's get a look at these images. I think we have moving pictures as well. Crimean Crisis is the name of the YouTube feed, and you had, to rather dramatic music, I think that was playing in the background as the person was recording this, 12 army helicopters coming across the skies. So look, everything was pointing to the fact that there was a Russian military presence.
And the new Ukrainian leadership did say actually that its airspace had been compromised, violated, I should say, by those helicopters earlier today. A different story was being told, however, in the Russian media.
That's right. This is why I say it was extremely contradictory. It was a day of very mixed messages. Let's take a look at one sequence from a correspondent for the Russia Today network in Crimea this afternoon.
Seeds of the Cold War are returning.
Why it could reignite Cold War flames with Russia.
Many think the Cold War.
It's the next one up. All right, that was the wrong sequence. We'll take a look now at Russia Today extract from this afternoon from Crimea.
These people don't have any identification signs on them, but they have now become known as the self-defense squads.
We are Crimeans. Our militia unit consists of workers, retired officers and pensioners. No one paid us to come here. We came here on our own free will.
There you go, and very much a denial that it is in any way Russian-driven, that military presence. So it depends on what media you were looking at, Cyril.
And all this points to different storylines or narratives of what's happening in Ukraine, depending on the media that you're consulting.
That's right, indeed. If you're looking at foreign policy, the American Foreign Policy magazine, they I thought they had an interesting article put online written by Daniel Twinning, and I'll just give you an extract of that article. There are good reasons to be careful not to rush NATO forces into Ukraine or set up American bases there. Strategic prudence need not mean bending to the will, but strategic prudence need not mean bending to the will of Moscow, whose meddling has done so much to prevent Ukraine from embracing its European vocation. Now, that's quite a packed paragraph, but I think that the three words that stand out there for me are its European vocation. In other words, that Ukraine is destined to come into the European fold, despite the fact that there were polls going back to December saying that only 43% of Ukrainians actually saw that as their vocation. You wouldn't pick that up from reading that article in Foreign Policy. So there is a very, I think, what would you say, pro-Western slant to the reading of things in the Western media. It's not surprising. And I think we saw a sequence earlier showing, we won't replay it again, showing the extent to which there's a Cold War narrative emerging in the American media. It's similar, Cyril, if you look to the Russian media. Indeed, Reuters gave us an extract in this article of a radio phone-in show where one person phoning in was accused of being on the fascist side on the fascist. Which side were you on in World War II? Said the phone-in host, accusing the person who was simply expressing some support for Ukraine's rulers of being a fascist. Right. So it's all going back to this sort of Cold War, even World War II lingo. Rather simplistic.
Well, James Creedon, Media Watch this evening was just full of Ukraine, as was the news, and we'll get you all the latest on that top story in just a couple of moments when we resume with World News. That's in 2 minutes.